Hey everybody, Joseph Rothschild here, aka Mono Bluetron, back again with another episode of 10-Minute Testing. So I can see that you are staring intently at the word zoo on the screen and rapidly furrowing your brows, but let me explain, baby. She's just a friend. Nothing's going on here. No, of course you satisfy me, Guard of Desires. No, I appreciated what you did with Quaking. It meant a lot. No, wait, come back. No, come back. Oh... Okay, we'll deal with that later. For now, here's my excuse. There's just too much synergy with the recently spoiled Dark World Brainwashing for me to pass up, and rogue decks really just can't compete without throwing in a couple of rats. So let's jump into Deck Edit, and I will show you some of the saucy details. So here's the list. Now, there's a lot going on here, and as always, I will give you a breakdown of the archetype, a discussion of what I hope it will do together, and of course, the old card by card. So, first, for those of you who don't know, Dark World is an archetype from Elemental Energy, a pack that is so old that kids born after its release are now old enough to shitpost in my comments section. Now, they've released just about one card of Dark World support every 10 packs for the last 12 years, and they've mostly been just terrible. However, now that we're getting new support in Quota the Duelist for Lightsworns, their dark counterpart might as well get some support as well. Just a couple of days ago, in fact, the card Dark World Brainwashing was spoiled, and unlike most other Dark World chaff, it almost seems playable. Dark World is an archetype about discarding its members from the hand to the graveyard for special effects. Now, in Elemental Energy, it was almost entirely so you could special summon the 2300 attack 5-star monsters Silva and Gold, but after we got out of Cyber Dragon format and their theme deck was released, they became less of a dump 5 stars in grave and more of a summon a 3000 attack beater as fast as possible. Unfortunately, as I'm sure you all know, that is no longer close to good enough, and their previous strengths of getting to play floodgates like skill drain have been cucked by ban list after ban list. So, the problem with the new Floodgate, Dark World Brainwashing, and the reason we're playing Zoo, is that in order for it to work, we need both a Dark World on our side of the field to return to the hand, and 3 cards in our hand. I guess because Konami was scared of Tier 0 Dark World or something. I don't fucking know. As a result, we have to shy away from Dark World's usual game plan of being able to set Dark Holes and Floodgates so they can do something with Drag Down, but I refuse to drop Drag Down from my list, so we have to get inventive. So that we have 3 cards in our hand in a Dark World at the same time, we're playing Zoo, which is effectively a +1 since the entire combo puts a Whiptail and an Emerald draw in your hand. Now, this also means we don't have to rely on a Grapha on our side of the field, which we will just return to the hand for Brainwashing and get fucking run over. As a result, we can make a Trident to protect ourselves. The extra benefit is that these cards come out after Link summoning is established, but by using Leica and Mistress Radiant, the deck can function basically exactly the same under Link rules. So, I don't know, maybe it'll work out. So here are the cards. We have 3 Grapha, Giant Fucker of Dark World. When he's sent from the hand of the graveyard by a card effect, which I will refer to as the Dark World effect from here on out, he destroys 1 card on the field. God, I mean, this card used to be so good. You can also return a non-Grapha Dark World to your hand to special him from the graveyard, and with Brainwashing, you can actually return him to the hand to reuse him. 1 Lucent, the new Silva and Gold for all you OG Dark World people. His Dark World effect special summons himself. He's got 2400 attack, so, you know. 3 copies of Snow, its Dark World effect is to search a Dark World card from your deck, so if this Brainwashing card sucks, we can shave it down to 1. This is a nuts searcher. It gets both the Dark Worlds and the cards needed to discard them. 2 copies of Beige, his Dark World effect special summons himself, it's good enough, and we need guys that can be normaled or specialed for Grapha flexibility. 3 copies of Brow, his Dark World effect is to draw a card. That ought to come in handy. 2 copies of Trance Archfiend. I don't love him, but he's a discard outlet, and actually he has a lot of positive synergy with the rest of the archetype. He gets to return a banished monster to your hand when he is destroyed. Next, we have 1 copy of the one, the only tour guide of the underworld. She makes rank 3s with Brow. I wish I could find space for a Skarm or an Archfiend Eris, but I can't. Next is the Zoo guys. We have 1 Whiptail and 3 Rat Pier. That ought to be enough. On to spells. 1 Raigeki, 3 Drag Down to the Grave. God, this card is so good. I love Thoughtseize. This is the reason to play the deck. Unfortunately, you have to be a little clever about ordering, but it's not that hard. It lets you rip a card out of your opponent's hand while they make you plus off of Dark Worlds. 3 copies of Terraforming to find our 3 copies of Gates, which is basically dealings on a stick. Speaking of, here is 3 dealings, followed by 3 copies of Barrage and 2 Desires, another way to get a +1. We round out the lineup with our 3 Brainwashing, the fun and exciting choice for the modern man. In the extra, we have a Hope Harbinger, a Hyretic Sun Dragon Overlord of Heliopolis, both of which have just hilarious names, an Emerald, a 101, a Castell, a Tiger Mortar, 2 Trident, 1 Wildbow, 2 Broadbull, and then our 3s, 1 Nightmare Shark, 1 Grampulse, 1 MX Saber Invoker, and a Dante. So let's jump into the games and see if we can party like it's 2005. Our first match is up against the greatest Blue Eyes deck in the history of time, playing such incredible cards as Protector with Eyes of Blue. We've opened okay. We, of course, have a Zodiac Barrage, which is always nice to see, but we have nothing to do with any of these Dark World guys. We might have to get a little tricky. Our opponent's going to start out normal summon Protector, special summon Whitestone, and end their turn. You know, classic turn 1 play from Blue Eyes. We're going to go ahead and draw our Rat Pier, and I think, God, special summoning from the hand. What is this, 2015? Let's go ahead and fire off this Barrage and get ourselves a Rat Pier. Note to anyone who will be playing against Zodiac in the next couple of months, don't Effect Veiler the Rat Pier. We're going to go into Borbo, go into Tiger Mortar, detach the Borbo from Tiger Mortar to special summon the Rat Pier from our hand, and then immediately go into Broadbull, use its effect to special summon a Rat Pier from our deck, use its effect again to add a Whiptail to our hand, and then overlay into the one, the only Daigusto Emerald. We're going to detach, shuffling 2 copies of Rat Pier and 1 copy of Tiger Mortar back into our deck and hope to draw something, and what do you know, we get dragged down. So unfortunately we can't drag down with a Whiptail in our hand, so we'll go ahead and attach that to the Broadbull, then drag down, discarding Brow, I believe he picks. I get the Silver's Cry and draw into a Terraforming and an additional card. I get to Terraforming for Gates, and then after Gatesing I get to fire off Grapha. The Grapha is going to go ahead and destroy this copy of Protector. I get to go into Trident, which will of course have 1200 attack instead of 0 because we have a Whiptail attached. I will then destroy this copy of Whitestone of Ancients. Not ideal because he'll get a Blue Eyes at end step, but I do want to punch in for as much as possible. Because I haven't normal summoned, I'm going to normal summon this copy of Snow and then immediately return it to special summon Grapha and get in for, I believe, 6,000 points of damage. This puts him dead to Nightmare Shark or really just about anything. At his end phase, of course, he will get the Blue Eyes White Dragon, which is immediately under threat from the Drancia. He's going to go into Protector, attack the Drancia. I don't destroy it pre-combat. I figure I can just make another copy of that with another copy of Barrier in my hand, or actually just kill him if he has nothing else to play. Banishing it is probably slightly more important. He's going to end his turn. On my turn, I see that he has nothing, and I'll just walk over him for game. Our second match is up against Skull Servant Lawn Mowing Shadow. I mean, how can I be mad about this? It's so funny. We've opened standard Dark World hand. Let's see if we can get some zoo elements going. We'll activate Dark World dealings first of all. Get rid of our Snow to get a Gates. I see he's gotten rid of Unizombie, and I go, oh shit, are we going to get synchroed out of this game? But after I activate this drag down, I can see there's something much darker than synchros in my future. I'm going to get rid of the Shadal Fusion just because I don't know if I can really out it very effectively. This Beige is going back to my hand for the Grapha, and now we're going to do the standard zoo play off of one of our draws. We go into the Wildbow, the Tiger Mortar, get a Rat Pier, go into the Broadbull, get a second Rat Pier, add a Whiptail to our hand, and then go into an Emerald and see what we can draw. In this specific instance, we're going to be able to draw the one, the only Tour Guide. So we'll set this Dryden and end our turn. Our opponent is going to start off with an Allure and then immediately Shadal Fusion. They go into Winda, and I'm thinking, I mean, this is kind of precarious because I could attach this Whiptail after he inevitably attacks this Dryden, but I don't really want to banish Winda. I do know that Skull Servant does have the potential to make giant special summons, so kind of I want it to stay on his side of the board at least until the end of this turn. So when he goes to go ahead and attack this Dryden, we're just gonna let it happen. So he does so, I let it happen. I do BM him a little bit first. Then he's gonna summon a King of the Skull Servants. That's fine with me, I believe. We're gonna start with a Tour Guide to get a Brow, of course our single special summon for the turn. Then we'll attack over the Winda. I don't really want to devote any resources to getting rid of it. He's going to add the Shadal Fusion back to his hand. We'll go into Dante. Unfortunately, like an idiot, I click attack mode. We do get to send this Grapha off of the Gates, destroy this Skull Servant, and then shuffle this Dryden back into our deck alongside some other cards. We draw a Terraforming, which gets us another copy of Gates. This Gates allows us to discard this Brow, which allows us to draw a Dark World Brainwashing. And now I'm like, oh boy, we might actually get to play the card I made the deck for. So we'll go ahead and set this Dark World Brainwashing and hope for the best. Our opponent is going to start off by using Shadal Fusion. I'm going to flip Brainwashing now because I'm not very good at this game. He's going to use Shadal Beast. I figure if there is a Shadal he's going to send that will activate an effect I want to use Brainwashing on, I want to have it out, which is why I actually chain it. He uses Twin Twisters to destroy the gates and the set card, which is unfortunately a Raigeki. Then he instant fuses into Norden, and I figure that is a good target for the Brainwashing. We'll go ahead and use Brainwashing to return Grapha to our hand, and a little known fact about Brainwashing, it doesn't negate the effect, it changes it to your opponent discards a card. So we actually get the like secret little special bonus that all the Dark World monsters have, which is if your opponent sends it for a card effect, you get like a better version of their effect, I guess. For Brow, which is what he hits, it's draw 2 cards instead of 1. So we get to draw 2 into another Rat Pier and another Brainwashing. He's going to summon a Skull Servant, get in for 4,000. Unfortunately, we can't do anything about this, but fortunately, we're not dead. At end step, the Norden dies, and we're still alive. We're going to go ahead and use this Zodiac Barrage in order to do kind of mediocre Zodiac play, because I don't really know where the rest of the Rat Piers are, and go into our Trident at main phase 2. For now, we'll normal summon this copy of Bij to go into Grapha and start attacking into this Shek. When the Shek uses its effect, I will return this Grapha to our hand, and unfortunately, he hits the Rat Pier, which is really unfortunate. Anyone else, and we'd be in much better states. But we're going to go ahead and go into Trident, destroy this Skull Servant, and end our turn. Our opponent is going to go ahead and use Mizuki to get back King of Skull Servants, normal summon Lady in White, and attack into the Trident, basically just showing that he has 0 outs to it, BMing me a little bit. I destroy the King of Skull Servants, and he ends his turn. We get to blow him up here. We're going to attach Viper so that we can activate Drag Down to the Grave. He hits Grapha, which allows me to destroy Lady in White. I draw into Gates, which allows me to discard this Bij, special summon itself, return for Grapha, normal summon Bij for exactly 6,100 points of damage and the game. So those were pretty good hands. This is a little more what a brick looks like. A normal summon Rat Pier and another normal summonable monster in our hand alongside a Drag Down to the Grave. Unfortunately, we can't ensure it hits a Dark World like we usually can. Our opponent is playing Gradle Kaiju Paleozoic. It at least seems kind of interesting, and I would like to see how it turns out. We're going to start by making the classic zoo board, just unfortunately a little weaker than normal because we don't get to barrage into it, and we have to use our normal summon. We'll add a Whiptail, and then we will go ahead and make the one, the only Daigusto Emerald, draw another card. It's not anything really exciting, unfortunately. So we'll Pot of Desires into a Grapha and a copy of another Elemental Triangle. Immediately upon passing turn, he's going to tribute our Trident for this Kaiju, and then activate Gradle Cobra, attack into Emerald, attach it to the Kaiju, and then attack into Emerald once again. During their main phase, they're going to set 3, and I'm like, oh shit, I don't know if I can beat a stun deck. We'll start out by activating this, but he's going to flip up the Tribal MST to destroy our Barrage, which is not great. We'll normal summon this Tour Guide, which gets us a copy of Brow, but once we go into Grand Pulse, he flips it face down. I really needed the Brow in the graveyard so that this Gates is on. As of now, it is not because there's no Fiend in our graveyard, so since we can't detach here, we really don't have anything to do. We'll activate the Gates and then activate the Drag Down. I mean, he obviously can pick the Whiptail or the Terraforming here and suffer no consequences, which he does, and then I end my turn. On his turn, he's going to go ahead and normal summon this Gradle Slime Jr., use its effect to special summon a Gradle Slime Jr., go into Anomaly Karis, destroy this Gates, and attack into our Grand Pulse. So now we at least have Fiends in our graveyard if we draw another Gates. We don't, but we do draw a Trance Archfiend. Unfortunately, that isn't an out, and after BMing him just a little bit, we're going to Dark World Dealings, get rid of Grapha, target this card that can't be destroyed by monster effects, and concede. So we're back with the deck. It was fun, but there were a couple of problems. Dark World Brainwashing was good, and I really like this design space where they tinker around with making it your opponent's card effect, things like this and Dark Deal, for example. But unfortunately, though this provides the most compelling case yet for that type of effect, I still don't think it's good enough. It's nice that it's searchable off of Snow, but there were exactly 0 scenarios in which I would even consider searching this off of Snow instead of basically just another Dark World Dealings, a Gates of Dark World, or another Dark World monster. Perhaps the deck needs to be retooled away from the like Turbo Grapha version, so there's not as much conflict with the stun elements of this deck. I like the Zoo engine as sort of a way to plus easily, but honestly, Zoo just kind of introduced a couple of unfortunate nombos where we were playing Drag Down and a bunch of normal monsters that unfortunately had to be normal summoned to get any benefit. Honestly, the worst card in all of these games was the one, the only tour guide from the underworld, the card that used to make this deck even remotely playable. Well, I certainly misplayed in some of my games, and I could have definitely built this deck slightly better, tuned it a little more effectively against the meta. I think Dark World Brainwashing might be barking up the wrong tree. I'll wait for ban lists to make any type of definitive assertion about this card, but for now, probably not good enough. So that's that. I hope you enjoyed my love letter to an archetype that is about half as old as I am by now. If you want to see me play the decks I make on this show on stream, I'm on Twitch every Monday and Wednesday from 9:30 to noon Eastern Standard Time. Links in the description. And if you want to see me play a certain deck or archetype on a future episode of this show, let me know in the comments section below and I will do my best to accommodate you. Otherwise, I'll see you Thursday.